at home into some resources on the community development website regarding floodplain management. To remind everyone that if you have any questions regarding whether or not your lot is indeed in the floodplain, feel free to contact our office and we can assist you with that. And there are other great resources on this website, not just about flood insurance, but also about preparing for hurricanes. I wanted to take this evening to just walk through a few major things that are happening within development within the city. So I can take a little bit of time to go over briefly Exit 1, some of the progress that we're making there. I'd also like to inform the council of some recent actions that we've taken at the Cumberland Oaks apartment complex, give you an update on that. I'd also like to give a very brief update on where the Midtown revitalization plan is. And then lastly, I'd like to talk about the development moratorium that we put into effect on September 15th. Okay, so feel free to stop me at any time while we go through that. So this development map, you've seen me put this forward before. The white outlines that you can see are the boundaries of the city. The parcels that you see in pink these would be approved developments. So you see the kind of marquee Exit 1 here, just to anchor everybody. Here's the I-95 interchange, here's the Pilot gas station, and this would be traveling towards St. Mary's along St. Mary's Road. Exit 1 is an 1,800-acre master development. We are actively meeting with Radiant, the master developer, as well as Taylor Morrison, which is an active construction project right now. That includes 1,300 single-family homes on a resort-style gated community that will have a golf course, and that will be on both the south and the north ends of the road. Any of you who have driven this road have seen on the very westerly portion on the northern side of the road, they've been doing some clearing. That's the future road that we'll call Still Waters Drive, and that will lead up to the water treatment plant and the new fire station. So you see that active clearing happening there. As you travel further east at the bend of the road, you'll see a lot of activity there. That will be the main entrance into the Taylor Morrison development. That will be known as Esplanade Boulevard. That is actively under construction now. And, you know, bits and pieces here and there are happening within the Exit 1 development. Just this morning, I had a meeting with a representative of Radiant to talk about their commercial development. So as we've discussed before, there'll be commercial pods. There'll be a westerly one on the north side of St. Mary's Road. They'll be both on the southern side of St. Mary's Road and the northern, right around that Esplanade Boulevard. So we'll have a mix of commercial, retail, perhaps some manufacturing in other places, as well as housing. Okay? A little bit about, let's now take the map over to Midtown. As many of you may know, we've engaged the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute to do both a marketing and branding study, which is led up by our Main Street manager, and they will soon be kicking off a planning phase. And one of the things that we've discussed with them is really how we can begin to think about utilizing the right-of-way or the kind of the roadway that is Osborne and blending it into private property with some stormwater capture interventions. So if you think about maybe a bioswale or some green infrastructure or some stormwater management at the nexus of the public and private land. So the thinking there is that we could help to mitigate any future stormwater utility costs, but we could also create kind of an expanded right-of-way experience. Part of our comprehensive plan and master plan was really about creating a comprehensive look and feel and revitalizing Midtown so that you get this feeling of arrival, and then that continues all the way into downtown. Okay, so, all right, I hit flood insurance, I got the UGA part, I got the Exit 1 part. Let's talk about Cumberland Oaks. As council knows, and as many members of the public know, 2 years ago now, I think, we were accepted into the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing cohort. This is referred to as GIC, Georgia Initiative for Community Housing. We have an affordable housing committee that meets once a month. That's in Main Street. If anybody would like to join, it's open to the public. That committee is very invested in ensuring that there are housing opportunities for all in St. Mary's. And I think part of our investigation over the last year was really looking at some of our affordable housing developments within the city, and more investigation with residents of the Cumberland Oaks properties revealed some poor housing conditions there. And so really under the leadership of our building official and our code compliance officers, we went and we did 100% inspection of all 154 units at the Oaks. We found a great deal of violations, frankly, and so we entered into a series of notice of violations to the ownership and to the management. And I'm hopeful because they responded with a remediation plan, which they gave to us earlier this week, and it includes about $300,000 worth of improvements to the development. So I think that's been a long time coming, and I think it's really shows that we as a city are demanding proper management and good housing conditions for our low-income residents and residents who need affordable housing. Great, so lots of good movement on that. All right, so now we'll go into the development moratorium, and I've asked that our city engineer, Mr. Chris Amos, join me for this discussion. So only 17 days ago, 15 days ago, we passed a 90-day development moratorium. And this moratorium applied to major rezonings, new planned development districts, new preliminary plats, conceptual plats, large civil plan sets. In that time of this 15 days or so that we've had, Chris and I have had several conversations with the development community. And I think it's really important for us to take a little bit of time with the public and with council to walk through some of the conversations that we've been having and to go over some of the analysis that Chris and Public Works Department has been engaging in with our engineering partner, Volkert. So this map, I alluded to it before. The items that are in pink, other than Exit 1, these are all sort of proposed developments that have made their way through the land use cycle. They're pretty much ready to go. They have some variations. They might need a civil plan set to be completed, but they've really made it pretty far down the path. The ones that are in yellow, and this is in flux all the time, the developments that are in yellow are still more in what I would refer to as the entitlement phase. So they may be seeking zoning or they may already have zoning. And just so the council can and the public can understand this a little bit better, when I use the term entitlement, I'm talking about we're entitling the land to have a certain use or a certain density on it. And we do this through the act of zoning. We do this through the act of a special use permit. And to entitle land in that way, really, once you've done it, you don't remove it, right? It's not like if you don't build it, you lose your zoning. We don't do that. Once you entitle a land with zoning, that's what it is. So all through this investigation, we've been trying to kind of think about, it's basically, let me backtrack a little bit and also share with you a map that our city engineer has been working on. So this is a map, a little bit hard to see, but this map really overlays our sewage collection and conveyance infrastructure with our proposed development. So there are critical areas in the city which lack the capacity to convey and transfer sewage. We have plenty of treatment capacity. This is something that, unless you get into the weeds of it, we don't really understand. But to treat at a treatment facility, we have capacity. To convey is where we have some challenges. So really, the moratorium, and I'll relinquish this conversation so that Chris can walk through this a little bit, but the moratorium was put in place for really 3 critical investigations to happen. The first is this type of analysis. We need to understand this infrastructure. We need to understand its capacity. And then part of the analysis that Chris is doing, Public Works and with Volkert, is to think about incremental improvements of that infrastructure, rather than looking at it whole hog, however many millions of dollars, how do we incrementally improve that infrastructure? That's one investigation, which I believe that we'll have completed within the next 45 days, something like that. The second is really for you as a body and for us as staff to understand the costs of that. The costs and the funding of that type of intervention and improvement. And then the third investigation is really the framework or the rubric for how we will allow managed growth to proceed. So I think the moratorium is a very critical time to get a little bit more information. And so I'll now pass it over to Chris to kind of walk through this map a little bit.
I think I should have brought my glasses in with me, but I think I know the map well enough that I can explain everything. So what we've done is we've taken Jamie's development map, overlaid it on our sewer infrastructure, and try to identify all of the critical areas of infrastructure that need to be analyzed to make sure that we can manage the wastewater from these developments. We have, since the moratorium went in place, we have gathered a lot of information, pump drawdown tests and pump run times and a lot of technical data, as well as a lot of the previous analysis that was done for specific pump stations in the city that other engineering firms have done. And then those elements of the Freeze-Nichols Water and Sewer Master Plan, which is a very good framework for us to help analyze this and figure out what needs to be done next. Volkert is working on that modeling right now, and we're having weekly meetings to go over where they are and make sure that they have all of the information that they need to continue this modeling effort. The purpose of the modeling is to define in a broad way what infrastructure improvements need to be done, and then start working on how those are phased to the incremental approach that Jamie mentioned. We do have some challenges in a couple of the basins where we have developments that were suddenly had to be put on hold. Some of them were fairly far along when this came up, and we're trying to figure out what can we do to get those developments moving forward again, and then look at the larger effort that we have to do, including the cost and the time frame that those improvements need to be done in, so that we can get everything back on track. And there are probably some elements of the city that the moratorium is going to be in place for longer than the 90 days, depending on what it's going to cost to build sewer pump stations and other infrastructure to convey and transport the wastewater. So we're early in that process, and I expect that we're going to have next week's meeting. I think I should be able to get some better data about where we are in that modeling effort. And then as we go through the moratorium, we're going to be converting from modeling to specific recommendations and defining what we can do and what it's going to cost.
And I'm certain y'all are also, as far as the Scrubby Bluff plant, when it comes online, looking at that modeling as well to what could be diverted back that way that's within the current system that was not initially planned to go that way? Is that, I mean, I assume
That is correct. One of the things that we're looking at, in fact, that will be looked at, we had a discussion about this today, is trying to take Osprey Cove and take it over to Scrubby Bluff instead. That'll free up a bunch of transport capacity in the rest of the system if we can do that. We don't know exactly what that's going to take. We had some sort of surprising news from EPD after they had made a commitment on the initial expansion of Scrubby that led to this broader effort. And part of that may end up, in fact, utilizing as urban reuse golf course irrigation at Exit 1.
So again, you said you're thinking about taking over the entire Osprey Cove area?
That's one of the things that we're looking at. I don't think, we're not to the point that we know that that's feasible, but I think that's a desirable goal, is to take everything that's on that side of St. Mary's Road, I mean, that side of 40, and take all of that to Exit 1. That planning effort is separate from the stuff that Volkert is working on. And there's some interaction between the two of them. There's some elements to this that are common to both problems that they're working on together.
So what, do you have any idea of the cost of, or estimated cost for the projects that are fairly well along that we want to try and get finished? I mean, those are our first priority on conveyance, correct?
13 and 15 is underway. So.
Yeah. Well, we have, so there are two large pump stations in the city that have to be replaced, not upgraded, but replaced. One of them is it's off of Douglas Drive near Commerce Park. And that one is already fully designed and is ready to go out to bid. That's got to be done first before these other ones can be done, because it's taking wastewater from the other systems and conveying that to the Point Peter plant. So the next one is in Sugar Mill on Colerain, and that one is designed. We don't have that project funded yet, but we have the full design drawings, and that one can be made ready for bid pretty quickly. But while Volkert is doing this modeling, we want to make sure that the assumptions that were made on 13 and 15 are still good with what's happening with Exit 1 and how we're shifting some of the wastewater around. So they're going to be looking at 13 and 15 and make sure we don't need to tweak something on that before it goes out to bid. But those two projects are critical parts of this infrastructure, and they're basically ready to go.
They're also part of that grant that we've got for 13 and 15.
Okay.
So, have we settled the land expansion needs at 15? Have we procured that land, or?
I believe that we have. I'm working with the developer of that property right now. They've submitted plans for development. They've allowed a very generous area for 15 to go on. And Mr. Reddick has given me permission to begin the process of putting together the documents for acquisition of that property. And that was a big part of why 15 wasn't ready to go, is we didn't have anywhere to put it. And I think that part of the puzzle has been solved.
And I guess as we upgrade lift stations, certainly only a certain amount of upgrade can be done before the actual in-ground infrastructure between lift stations has to be increased as well. I mean, you can only force so much through at a certain pressure
Yes,
before you need bigger lines, and that will certainly be a much more costly endeavor when it comes to that, I would assume.
Yes, sir, that's correct, and that's part of the modeling that Volkert's doing. It isn't just the pump stations themselves, but the force mains and the gravity sewer that everything is connecting into. So they're looking at all of that right now.
So how long is it gonna be before we have to change the one on Burrell?
That one, I don't know if that one's in line for a capacity upgrade. There are some issues with that one on Burrell that, the Public Works is working on.
Yes, sir.
I know we've gotten pricing from contractors. I don't deal much with the maintenance end of this, so I don't know exactly where that project is, but I know there's been a lot of, activity about that pump station.
Yes, sir, thank you.
But the one on Burrell or Darker Entry Creek across from Shadow Line there, I mean, that one's,
That's the
that's the
critical,
problematic one right now,
yes,
right?
it
So-
is. That's the problematic one. So that particular pump station, for, when it's upgraded, then the one by the school has to be upgraded as well. Based on what the master plan analysis showed, those were two projects that would have to go together, and they were very expensive projects. One of the things that Volkert is looking at in the modeling is what can we do incrementally to increase the capacity of the one that's across from Shadowlawn by Dark Entry, without having to upgrade the pump station by the school. So that would let us get development moving again that's going to that pump station without having to spend the bigger money. And the bigger money may not be needed now that we are looking at reconfiguring the system going to Scrubby, which was another reason for this moratorium, is that there's a lot of moving parts here and we didn't have the answers to all of this. And this is allowing us to get those answers.
We don't have any sort of shared system with Kingsland over down Haddock Road there with the development that's planned with Mr. Gross, and I don't know, does that sewage convey across the interstate to Kingsland area somewhere, or?
You mean the one that's in the city of Kingsland, the one that Bill's working on off of Haddock Road?
Yes, sir.
No, that goes to the city. That goes to the city of Kingsland, I'm sorry. That is not, we are not treating any wastewater from his project. We're going to have to deal with traffic issues from his project. We can't do anything about that, but we're not going to deal with any water or sewer.
I guess I was just wondering whether there was any, what our capacity, our approved capacity with EPD, and the possibility of, that making any sense for them to treat any of that, or whether they're okay with their system as far as what their needs are going to be there on that side of the interstate, whether there's, an opportunity for some partnership there or not, like we have with the roundabout.
We haven't had any conversation with the city of Kingsland about that. We have a problem, even if we could utilize if we could irrigate everything at the Exit 1 project from Scrubby Bluff, there's a storage component to that wastewater that has to be dealt with. And we don't know exactly how much footprint we have to put that storage component in as well. So I think right now we're focused on the city of St. Mary's needs. And whenever the two consultants that are working on that wastewater treatment plant, we're supposed to have another meeting with them on Monday. We're supposed to have a Teams meeting with them on Monday to get an update on Scrubby. So I'll have more information on that first of the week next week.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on that to say that this is not an unusual predicament for cities to find themselves in. I think that the timing right now is one such that we have a lot of development pressures because we're in the midst of a development boom. And so I think that's, kind of creating friction, definitely in my office about, this moratorium and what's happening and decision-making. But I hope that this discussion has impressed upon you that we are actively trying to figure this out right now. And I think the moratorium was really put in place to collect the data so that we can have a more informed discussion and we can manage our growth based on infrastructure capacity, infrastructure costs, and potentially some cost-sharing models, which we haven't really investigated a whole lot. I mean, I think there's some history in the city. Chris and I were talking about the Winding River development, and when it was first started, a lot of that infrastructure, right, was built
Yes.
by the developer. So, you know, I think it really behooves us to get a strong understanding for the capacity, for what type of investments are needed, and then to come up with a model that could be developers' agreements where, you know, just this morning and 2 times yesterday and 2 times the day before that, you know, I've had conversations with developers, and that's usually where it goes is, well, okay, we understand that there's some capacity challenges, but what does that look like? How do we engage in helping the city get through that? Like, what is the opportunity there to keep moving forward? So
I think one of the discussions that we had at the last council meeting about the moratorium was that with these developments, you know, they don't need sewage capacity tomorrow. They need it a year or a year and a half from now. And it's not unreasonable to think that we could be there, but we just don't know that yet. We need to know before we approve, you know, what the actual plan is and how we're going to get there, you know, financially and you know, contractually to actually get those things constructed within that time frame. And, you know, like I say, we can't very well sleep at night making promises to people that we don't know that we can get there. And so that's hopefully what we'll have at the end of this process is a little better idea about that.
absolutely. And I think that my approach for the planning commission that's coming up and during this time of the moratorium is that we are not further entitling land during this time. So, you know, and I've had several conversations. Some developments have elected to move forward. Some have elected to withdraw or, you know, table or stop their process. And I mean, we've talked about this exhaustively, and without this data, I just don't think it is a good idea to continue to entitle land without this information.
So some of the cost information that you're collecting about future needs, are you going to use that to have a discussion about possible changes or additions of impact fees?
It's a great question. I mean, we've sort of batted around a few ideas. Let's not forget that we do have some other, I think, financial tools that maybe we didn't realize it at the time when we set them up, but TAD 3 may be a great opportunity in which, you know, a developer can propose to put the cost of the infrastructure in upfront and then get it paid back to them once they build in that tax increment. So I think we're eager to start utilizing tools. You know, we can have conversations about our aid to construction fees. We can have conversations about impact fees. All of these are developers agreements. These are all possible, but we don't want to have them blindly. You know, we want to know what we're asking for.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we're ready to move on.
That's all I have, yeah.
That's it?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the public? All right, well, we'll adjourn this meeting until our 6 o'clock quarterly town hall meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Now.
You're behind us.